Hi guys, today I'm gonna do the odds on page 20 and then you can do the evens. I'll post some times for Zoom calls that you can call in and get some help if you need it. We're on page 20 in the packet. Okay. All right, so the idea here is based upon completing the square. So you're going to have to make the, and I'm going to do everything on the left side. You're going to have to make the left side a perfect square trinomial. So first I start by moving the 3 to the other side. The opposite of subtracting 3 is adding 3. And now I think to myself that if this was a perfect square trinomial, it would be a plus 1 squared. The 1 comes from half of 2 is 1, which means that above this, there had to be a 1, because that makes it a perfect square trinomial. You can't just add 1 to one side. You have to add 1 to both sides. Then you take the square root of each side. And the square root of 4 happens to be 2, so I'm going to write plus or minus 2. So that gives me a is equal to negative 1 plus or minus 2. So my two answers here would be negative 1 plus 2, which is 1, negative 1 minus 2, which is negative 3. Okay, number 3. P squared plus 16p plus, I don't know, equals 22. Half of 16 is 8. 8 squared is 64. So I'm going to add 64 to both sides because I need it to be a perfect square trinomial. That gives me 86. So now I'm going to take the square root of both sides, and that gives me p plus 8 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 86. I'm still going to leave everything unsimplified for now. We're going to talk about simplifying radicals maybe tomorrow. So p is equal to negative 8 plus or minus square root of 86. All right, number 5. R squared plus 2r plus I don't know is equal to 33. I want this to be a perfect square trinomial. Half of 2 is 1, so I'm looking for the trinomial to be the product of r plus 1 times r plus 1. So I need a 1 here, which means I have to put a 1 here. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. So I take the square root. I take the square root. That gives me r plus 1 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 34. Square root of 34 is an irrational number, so I'm going to leave it like that. So I get r is equal to negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 34. Some answers are rational, some answers are irrational. There's no judgment. Sometimes you'll actually be asked to maybe round that, so you would put it in your calculator and perhaps round it to the nearest tenth or something like that. All right, m squared minus 12m plus something equals negative 26. Half of 12 is 6. Now this is going to be a minus 6 here because that's a negative 12. And this is going to be 36. The number that you add is always going to be positive because a square, the same number times the same number, is always positive. All right, and that gives me 10. So I take the square root of both sides, and that gives me n minus 6 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 10. So m is equal to 6 plus or minus the square root of 10. All right. So I've got k squared minus 8k plus I don't know is equal to 48. Half of 8 is 4, so that's going to be k minus 4. And 4 squared is 16, so I'm adding 16 to both sides. That 64 is a perfect square, so this is going to be a rational answer. Take the square root of both sides. I get k minus 4 is equal to plus or minus 8. So I get k is equal to 4 plus or minus 8. So k equals 4 plus 8 is 12. K equals 4 minus 8 is negative 4. All right, last one. So I've got m squared plus 2m plus I don't know is equal to. So now I had to move the 48, but there was already a negative 6 there, so I can't just throw that away. I have to, pay attention to that. Half of 2 is 1, so this is going to be a 1. And I have to also add 1 over here. So I've got 48 minus 6, which is 42, plus 1 is 43. Take the square root of both sides. I get m plus 1 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 43. So m is equal to negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 43. All right, so I'm going to make this smaller so you can see the whole page. All right, I hope I didn't make it too small on you. But here's the answers that I have for 1. I have 1 comma negative 3. For 3, I have negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 86. For 5, I have negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 34. For 7, I have 6 plus or minus the square root of 10. For 9, I have 12 and negative 4. And for 11, I have negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 43. So you are supposed to do the evens by yourself. I will post times for Zoom. If you want to join the Zoom, please put in the comment field that you want to join, and then I will send you the code. Thank you. Have a good day.